Colorado is one of the many states seeing tremendous success in treating epilepsy with cannabis.
Once we realized that it really was an oil that is given, was given to her at first 3 times a day, sublingually in her mouth, and that it wouldn't get her high or anything like that, we slowly started to realize that actually the pharmaceuticals were making her high.
Despite mounting evidence that cannabis could be a safer treatment than pharmaceuticals, just hours away in Kansas, 6-year-old Autumn continues to struggle to find a medicine to control her seizures. Autumn suffers from Dravet syndrome, a rare and catastrophic form of epilepsy. At this point, even her doctors have suggested cannabis could be Autumn's only hope for a stable treatment. Due to Kansas laws prohibiting the use of medicinal cannabis, her family is forced to abandon their lives like many other medical refugees before them in hopes of finding a treatment for Autumn. We traveled to Lenexa, Kansas to document a day in the life of Autumn and her mother, Chris. Autumn's prescriptions are at their highest possible dose. Her condition has turned her into a pharmaceutical guinea pig for highly addictive and dangerous drugs.
Her morning meds are supposed to be seizure control, which is not a thing. And that's Keppra, Onfi, Depakote. And then at 2:30 she gets more Depakote and 2 supplements. And then at 8:30 she gets her melatonin for her insomnia. It's medicine time. No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know. Real quick. Just real quick. I know. Just real quick. Just real quick. Thank you. Thank you. And at 9:30 she gets more seizure meds, the Keppra, Onfi, Depakote. They come with a lot of side effects, behavior side effects. The Depakote causes her to have UV sensitivity, so now she can't even be in sunlight because she blisters. They're bad on her organs, they decay her teeth, they are diminishing nutrients in her body, which is why she has to take supplements now. We've been trying to wean Onfi for a year now, and we still have a really long way to go. She's been on it since 3 years old, so about 3 years now. The Keppra she's been on since she was 7 months old. The Depakote, no, the Onfi she's been on since she was like 2. So like 4 years. And Depakote she's been on since like 3. Our last drop, it took me almost 6 months to be able to safely drop the dose. Like, I would try, and then she would have nocturnal seizures like crazy. So I bring the dose back up, she goes back to baseline. Try to drop it down a few weeks later, nocturnal seizures. Bring it back up. So we did that for almost 6 months before I was able to successfully drop it down. And that was 1 ml a day. Like, she takes it twice a day, so it's like barely dropping it a little bit at one of the doses. That's not your drink, though. There are times where she'll chill out and she'll go watch movies. We have a lot of meltdowns. And I think a lot of that has to do with the communication barrier.
Since Autumn is nonverbal, Chris has been trying to teach her to use a Toby communication device.
Like personal, and it's got her friends and her family and some of her favorite movies, you know. And then her goes, different places that she can go.
Store.
You want to go to the store? I know, I was supposed to today, wasn't I? We have school.
School.
And that has like the list of the school stuff that we're working on with her, which is just me trying to pretend like I know how to do school. She doesn't actually have anyone that comes over and helps her anymore. She's prescribed OT and PT and speech, but none of them will do it until she does ABA. I did have speech for about 6 months, but they considered it rehabilitative.
Around and stop.
So once she reached to a certain point, they stopped services, and they were trying to get the school district to continue the services. They were more interested in just enrolling her in school and making
One cheese goes to our school, pick around and stop. Please, 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 please.
Are you beatboxing now?
One cheese goes to our school, pick around and stop. Please, 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 please.
The first thing she learned on here was how to beatbox. She can make songs out of her Toby. She knows how to navigate it through it pretty well.
Ask. Drink.
You want a drink? Okay, let's go find one. In the kitchen? There's totally this thing called Kepra Rage.
Oh,
yeah? Yeah, Kepra will make you have some serious mood swings.
A simple search on YouTube shows just how common Kepra rage really is.
Can you stop? You okay? Okay, so today is day 2 of the Kepra, and you can't read it, but her side effects include dizziness, weakness, tiredness, constipation, loss of coordination, also behavior changes, mood changes, anxiety, agitation, hostility, pressure, or rapid speech, or thoughts of suicide. What?
You guys are stupid.
Emily?
Don't talk like that. Emily, you hear me? Don't talk like that.
In Colorado, Gavin Ragsdale has received a chance for a normal childhood after his family fled from Kansas to use medicinal cannabis to treat his Doose syndrome epilepsy.
I'm Melissa Ragsdale, mother of Gavin Ragsdale. Gavin was diagnosed with Doose syndrome epilepsy at age 3. He suffered seizure aggravation from all pharmaceutical drugs, and we moved to Colorado in November to access medical cannabis, and it is currently saving his life. Yesterday we celebrated 20 weeks seizure-free. Gavin had gone 3.5 years without having a grand mal seizure, although he did suffer up to 100 seizures a day of other seizure types. When the grand mal seizures came back, and we knew that we were out of pharmaceutical options, it was time to make the move, and we knew that we were going to lose him if we didn't leave.
My name is Melissa Sullivan. This is my son Brady, and my husband Brady and I moved here in 2015 from Kansas, and on Thanksgiving of 2017 we took in Melissa and Gavin Ragsdale.
So Gavin had failed his 9th pharmaceutical drug. We tried that right before we left Kansas City, and he again suffered severe seizure aggravation and behavioral and emotional side effects from the medications. In the afternoon, 2 days before Thanksgiving, Gavin had 6 grand mal seizures and had countless drop seizures and absent seizures during the day. And we knew that the rescue medication that we had was not going to stop the seizures from coming. We knew that if we took him to the hospital, we were looking at inducing a phenobarbital coma. And we just were at the point where we knew with 100% certainty that cannabis was safer than any pharmaceutical option out there on the market for him.
She had been kind of sharing what was happening sort of as it was happening. And so both my husband and I were seeing this and we're like, holy crap, why are they going to California? Like, what's in California? And we're like, they need to come here, they need to come here, they need to come to our house. And we were both just adamant. I don't know if it was like because she's from Kansas, because we were like practically neighbors, or we just felt like we knew them. You know, their battle is so similar to ours. You know, and we knew what she was gonna go through and what she needed. And we'd done it. And so we felt like we had something to offer that maybe another family or someone else didn't.
Gavin's first pharmaceutical was Keppra, and he suffered from what is classically known as Keppra rage. Just horrendous side effects. He was seeing the walls move, he was seeing things in the ceiling. He was saying things and screaming in the middle of the night, waking up saying things like, I'm sorry I killed the baby. And at the time he had a brother that was 1.5 sharing the same room with him. So he tried Onfi, Keppra, Topamax, lacosamide, Diastat. I know I'm leaving others out. Zanisamide was his last pharmaceutical. And every drug that we gave him caused not only more seizures, but it caused cognitive regression, drooling, hallucinations, confusion, loss of coordination, lack of balance, inability to learn. You know, the side effects from the pharmaceuticals were equally as scary as the seizures themselves, and none of them stopped his seizures.
Would you say at this point, like the medications are almost becoming an equal part of the problem?
They absolutely are. She's so addicted to them that we can't get her off of them. They cause a lot of behavior issues. They're causing health problems, which is why she's now needing supplements.
One of the meds he was on, I was sent paperwork from the FDA that I had to fill out and sign saying that I understand that the side effects of this medication is blindness, and basically that I'm okay with that. And then the FDA also required me to have him get an eye exam every 3 months to check. But he was 1 year old, and the eye doctor was like, you know, I'm happy to do this and check those boxes for the FDA paperwork. He's like, but I can't truly give a 1 year old an eye exam. We can't truly know without like a very, very invasive procedure whether or not he's losing his peripheral vision. He's like, but, you know, keep on coming every 3 months and I'll check those boxes for you.
Pharmaceutical Gavin was extremely aggressive, extremely emotional. We would have hours and hours and hours during the day where he would be, you know, crying, throwing fits, confused, in and out of seizures all the time. Pharmaceutical Gavin was very empty. His eyes were very empty. That's the best way I can describe him on pharmaceuticals. He just wasn't able to learn and retain information. He didn't have any balance. Before epilepsy, Gavin was extremely athletic. We called him the ball boy. And you know, he just wasn't able to process information and play like any normal child should. And here with cannabis, we have a happy kid who almost never throws temper tantrums. He is independent. He plays by himself. He plays well with others. He's willing to share. He loves to learn. He's you know, playing every sport that he can get his hands on, and he's just doing really well. Pharmaceutical Gavin weighed next to nothing. On pharmaceuticals, he did not gain weight. He did not grow whatsoever. In the 9 months that we've been on cannabis therapies in Colorado, Gavin has gained a total of 16 pounds in 9 months. He is healthy. The dark circles that were under his eyes are gone. He has a brightness and a light in his eyes that just wasn't possible. Not only on pharmaceuticals, but also off pharmaceuticals when he was suffering, you know, 20 to 100 seizures a day.
Pharmaceutical Brady is a zombie. He's generally asleep most of the time. He's awake for a couple hours towards the end of that half-life wearing off before he gets meds again. Pharmaceutical Brady is virtually immobile. Pharmaceutical Brady has no expression. His eyes are just kind of hollow. He just looks right through you. Cannabis Brady is trying really hard to become mobile again, and Cannabis Brady smiles and goes to school all day and interacts and enjoys things. And what else do you do? Puts his hand in his mouth all the time. This is Brady's medicine. It is THCA. It is 0.025 mLs, so it's about the size of 2 grains of rice, and he gets this 3 times a day. I give it to him at 8 a.m., 4 p.m., and midnight. And it probably doesn't taste very good. What's it? That is what he needs to keep his seizures at bay. Less than an ml an entire day of THCA. That's it. No pharmaceuticals. Just cannabis.
So this is CBN. It is a cannabinoid that is psychoactive. It's about 10% of the psychoactivity, as I understand, is THC. So it's mildly psychoactive. However, this equals probably 5 or 6 drops in a dropper. So tiny, tiny, minute amount. This is not near enough CBN to get a child or anyone stoned. This is CBD. It's a 30-in-1 CBD to THC ratio. It is completely non-psychoactive. And this is Haley's Hope from the Flowering Hope Foundation.
Okay. I'm Janaea Cox, and this is my daughter, Haley Cox. We struggle on a daily basis, just trying to keep our child happy and healthy.
Haley's Hope is an oil made from a specific strain of cannabis. It is named after 4-year-old Haley Cox, who suffers from cerebral palsy and epilepsy. Jason Cranford spent 4 years breeding hundreds of different cannabis phenotypes in hopes of creating a strain that was high in CBD but low on THC. Once Cranford successfully got the strain to produce a 24-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, Haley's Hope was created.
And this is actually an oil that can be sent via mail from state to state. It's completely legal to be shipped throughout the country. A lot of caregivers use oil as rescue, but it processes differently within the body. This goes straight, you know, it crosses the blood-brain barrier much, much faster through the nose. So the effects are instantaneous versus when you're taking it orally, you're going to have to wait longer. Okay, baby. Oh, God.
This is Kepra. This is the one she's been on since 6 months, 7 months. This is the highest dose she's been on. She's actually maxed out on Kepra. She can't safely receive anymore. This is Onfi. This is our Grim Reaper. She's taking 6 milliliters of 2.5 milligrams per milliliter suspension. This is Depakote, another anti-seizure medication. And she is going to take 3 of this 3 times a day. And this would be 250 milligrams per 5 milliliters, and she takes 3 milliliters. So you do the math. Autumn. It's time for medicine. I know. I'm sorry. So she takes medications 4 times a day every day. They vary what they take.
Macy.
While Autumn lives in a constant haze from her highly addictive prescription drugs, before she takes her morning medicine, she is a completely different child. She attempts to verbally communicate and is less prone to mood changes. However, these mornings are short-lived, as Chris cannot be more than 30 minutes late with her meds or she risks Autumn suffering a seizure or withdrawal symptoms. The very same medicines that are supposed to prevent her from having seizures can now cause a seizure if she does not receive it on time.
This is the Onfi, Kepra, and Depakote, also known as valproic acid. There. Thank you. I can tell by her eyes are like dilated and her mood changes.
It does not take long to see a noticeable change in Autumn after her morning meds.
She's on she's on them constantly, so we have those side effects regularly, but after her morning dose, you can really tell a difference in her behavior.
Since one of Autumn's seizure triggers is high temperatures, she cannot go outside without wearing a vest designed to keep her body temperature down with the help of ice packs. Even with her cooling vest, though, Autumn cannot go outside during extreme heat.
These are the packs that go into the vest. And they're non-toxic, and they just sit in the refrigerator. They last about 3 hours. I had backups, but she broke them. She stomped on them and popped them. And the packs just go inside the vest. And then we put the vest on her. If it's over 70 degrees outside, she's gonna have her vest on. And it's, like, if it gets too hot, like I said yesterday, in the 90s and 100s, that vest isn't gonna help her. She just can't go out. It just happens to be cool enough this morning that she can get a few minutes. Dravet syndrome is a severe form of epilepsy that is known to be drug resistant and comes with developmental delays, behavior issues, it's a genetic mutation. She had a gene mutate in utero. Because of her gene mutation, it affects the sodium channels, and so any anti-seizure medication that also affects those sodium channels she's considered to be allergic to because they will intensify her seizures. At one point, she was taken by ambulance to Children's Mercy South to stabilize her, and they gave her fosphenytoin, which is one of the medications that she can't have. It should have been in their system because it was a known medication that she could not have. It caused her to seize for over 4 hours. She went into respiratory arrest, cardiac arrest, started to flatline. That was the same day that they gave her propofol and morphine, fentanyl. I mean, they really dosed her up. She started flatline, so they gave her adrenaline to counteract the anti-seizure medications, and when she started to come back to us, they realized that she was still seizing, even in comatose state.
It was definitely a guinea pig situation. It kind of felt like, you know, just they weren't really sure what to do for him. And when you have a kid that has multiple seizure types, it's kind of like playing a whack-a-mole. So one pharmaceutical drug may stop the absent seizures but cause an increase in the other seizure types. So at that point, they start layering pharmaceuticals to try to subdue the seizure types that are happening in other areas of the brain. And unfortunately, by doing that, you're sedating the brain. You're sedating the child. So, and unfortunately for Gavin, in his case, none of the seizure medications worked for him. And with the addition of every one, just took another piece of him away.
She absolutely is a guinea pig. There's not a lot pharmaceutically that can really help Dravet kids. So
it's kind of like they just are throwing everything at her, stacking everything on top of each other, hoping something will stick. She's actually been through the entire line of pharmaceuticals. She doesn't have anything left to try. St. Louis is trying to wean down some of these medications that Children's Mercy has put her on, because she's on incredibly high doses of some of these medications that are really dangerous and extremely addictive. These medications, you can't just stop them. If you stop them, they come with withdrawal effects. It can cause her to have seizures. It can give her problems with breathing. She gets tremors where she shakes really bad. So we have to gradually lower the dosage. Dan Hawkins is a huge roadblock. He is a chair of the committee that our bill sits on the House side, and he will not let it have a hearing. Even though his committee wants to hear the bill, he won't let it have a hearing. He told us that we would never get a hearing.
Dan Hawkins. I think Representative Hawkins, he lacks empathy, he lacks compassion. I don't believe that he has the willingness to get educated and learn about cannabis as medicine, about the human endocannabinoid system, and the science behind cannabis as medicine.
My name is Jennifer Wynn, and I am running for state representative in District 100 against Dan Hawkins. The biggest factor in blocking access to medical marijuana are people like Dan Hawkins. He was the he was the committee chair, and he basically would kill the bill before it could ever get to the floor for a vote. So when he ran unopposed, that was not going to be handed to him without a fight, so I jumped in the race, because people like that are pushing their own personal agenda. They're pushing propaganda, and it's hurting our children. It's hurting our loved ones, and people are suffering needlessly over nothing but lies. And that's just not okay in the United States of America. It's just not okay.
I've been speaking with Dan Hawkins for 5 years. I remember the first time Lisa and I were in his office talking about fried chicken dinner. He's met Autumn. He knows damn well that her care team suggests this treatment option. I swear the man doesn't have a heart. He has a wallet where his heart should be.
I believe that he is more concerned with lobbyists. I think it's more about money. I think Dan Hawkins needs to put patients over profits, and I don't think that there's anything that could be more important than saving a child's life or saving the life of someone you love. And for Dan Hawkins to continue to deny even a hearing and an open conversation about cannabis as medicine and cannabis as a treatment for these medically fragile individuals it's criminal. There's absolutely no excuse for it. The science is there. He has been provided lots of information. There's been a lot of opportunity for Dan Hawkins to meet with patients and caregivers and get educated on this subject, and he just refuses to learn. And I think it's time for Dan Hawkins to be voted out of office.
Dan Hawkins told one of the Bleeding Kansas members at the Capitol that they will never get access to marijuana. They will get CBD only, and that's it. And that's partially tied to his involvement with a manufacturer out of Colorado who's currently being investigated on federal charges of, I believe it's Medicaid fraud. He is tied to some of the shops now selling CBD in Wichita, and you know, he has a personal agenda. And that personal agenda doesn't have room for people who are suffering or children that are suffering like Autumn or Gavin. They don't care. I mean, Gavin and Autumn both have been at the Capitol. They have been in front of these legislators. They have been in front of Dan Hawkins, and they have gone ignored. And to the point that, you know, Gavin's family had to make that move to save his life. 20 weeks today, seizure-free, and it mandated that he have THC in order to accomplish that.
He sounded like he, you know, was interested in what we were doing. Years later, we found out he had absolutely no intention of letting our bill go anywhere. And that was before we had even written the Kansas Safe Access Act. That's when we were supporting another bill 5 years ago. This kid has been suffering for 5 years, and she doesn't have to. To me, that's neglect, it's abuse. I don't understand how they can get away with practicing medicine without a license. You're not a damn doctor. Why is it your decision, my child's course of treatment? That should be between us and our physician. It makes me so angry.
I got zero response from Dan Hawkins. I have tried several times to make appointments with him, both in 2015, or I believe it was 2016 and 2017 for the annual lobby day. I was not able to get an appointment with Dan. He has not responded to any of my emails or any of my phone calls. So this is something that we find quite common in Kansas, though. I have yet to have any representative sit down with me and listen to our story and our need for medical access.
You know, these people running around spreading lies have a reason for doing so, and it's to line their own pocket. It's for self-gain. It's not right. It's not even human, in my opinion. So we have no choice but to stand up and fight for these people, fight for our children especially. The many layers that this prohibition has caused is far greater than mass incarceration.
Jennifer Wynn is not the only candidate in Kansas that is calling for the state to move forward with medicinal cannabis.
It's important that you get people in there that support this movement. And without you making a firm commitment yourself, is to identify who those candidates are and what their positions are, and to encourage them to vote or to support medical marijuana, is not going to happen. We have got to unify and collectively speak out on this issue and not be afraid.
Another story I'd like to talk about, though, is a family member that I have that has Parkinson's. And I've watched this man who I love dearly, who is a former Marine, not an ex-Marine, I was very clearly told not to say, only former Marines, but I've seen him get smaller and smaller, have problems with shaking that he can't control, and what they want to do is give him opioids. He's a veteran, but when he goes and tries to get care, what do they want to say? Here's another opioid, take another drug, another narcotic, and he doesn't want to get addicted to it, but he can't take marijuana. The one thing that we've seen time and time again helps Parkinson's. It helps with the tremors, it helps with the muscular seizures, but he can't take it.
This is how we treat our veterans. This is how we treat the young men and women that we pluck from their families and send across the world to fight our battles. When they come home, we look at them and tell them that we don't care that they're sick. We don't do that, but that's what our government has done to them. And in the state of Kansas, we have also kept the safest, most reliable medicine that is known to man, which is medical marijuana. Why have we kept that from our veterans?
I realize that states that have medical marijuana laws have far lower opioid addiction rates. States that have medical marijuana laws have far lower overdose rates. States that have medical marijuana laws are able to treat debilitating and painful conditions that can't be treated otherwise. And states that allow doctors to prescribe class or Schedule II narcotics that are significantly more addictive and significantly more dangerous should also have the ability to prescribe medical marijuana.
It is hard to believe that what is considered a life-saving medicine in one state is illegal just hours away in another. But this is a reality Chris and Autumn live with every day. Her doctor's recommendations mean nothing to Kansas officials.
Thinking about where Gavin would be had we still been in Kansas, you know, it's hard to say. I don't know if we would have gotten him back. He was declining so rapidly, and the seizures were just so frequent. I think that if we stayed in Kansas, he would probably be, you know, in a very bad place. I think he'd be, you know, in a wheelchair, or, you know, at least in a full-point safety seat. I don't think he would have the ability to learn or play and grow. Sports wouldn't be an option. Any kind of independence would absolutely not be an option. Gavin could not be left alone when he was in Kansas and suffering from hundreds of seizures a day. And now he has an opportunity to just learn and grow like any normal child should.
I think your efforts at change and reform in Kansas are valiant, but is that the word, valiant? Yeah. But figure it out and get here. I mean, there's not time to waste, especially with some of these kids who are so drugged up. I don't think that's helping them. I think that's making things worse. And like Melissa was saying, you know, you have these overnight seizures, these nocturnal seizures, they might not wake up. It's just not worth it. I know it's got to be so hard, but figure out a plan and just get here.
You have to, as a human being, at one point in your life, you have to stand up and recognize that your silence is condoning the actions of these people that are harming our families and our children. Period. End of story. And if you want it to stop, you have to step out. And is it easy? No. Do you take backlash? Yes. Do you need to be prepared for that? Absolutely. But should it silence you for the sake of our children? No. Absolutely not.
I need Kansas citizens to wake up and get involved in their politics. The things that your lawmakers are doing, you need to hold them accountable. You need to know what is going on in those hearings. They are making decisions on your life that will affect you. They affect us every day. Kansas has failed us. We're leaving. We get it. We're not wanted here. We're not accepted here. We're gone. I will, however, continue to fight for the patients who can't leave, who are stuck in this state. I just have to do it from afar. It's Autumn's turn. She needs to get to safety.